Okay. So,
Okay.
hello, this is Pratyasha,
Hi.
and she's an SLP in New Zealand. And she's an Indian SLP, and I'm so glad we are doing this because I'm going to ask her
Yeah.
questions about her journey and what she does right now and how the SLP world is in New Zealand. So, hi Pratyasha, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Manasa. Hi. So yeah, I'm an SLP and I studied in India. So I did my bachelor's and my master's in India itself. And then I moved here like in 2022.
Okay,
So
okay.
almost like 3 years and a little bit. And I started working after I had moved in 2022. So almost three years and a bit of me working here as well. Um, yeah, so not all that new, but also not
Okay.
all that old in the
Yeah,
country.
still,
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit new.
yeah, a little bit new. Yeah.
So, where did you study in India?
In India, so I did my bachelor's in Aish, and then I also did my master's in Aish. So I was just in the
Okay.
Aish campus for a
For
very long
six,
time,
yeah.
for 6 years, and then I did my bond also in Aish for
Oh,
7 years. I was in Aish itself. Yeah, and so yeah, bachelor's in audiology. So when I don't know if the degree name has changed, but when we were studying, it was called Bachelor's of Science, Speech and Hearing. I don't know if
mm-mm.
it has changed to BA SLP now.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
basically the same thing, just names are different.
yeah,
Yeah.
names are different. No, so I remember like a conversation around that happening when we were almost done, and then did my master's there, speech, which was 2 years degree,
Okay.
and then 1 year bond working there in teletherapy
Mm.
during COVID. So that was
Oh,
a very
okay.
strange, useful coincidence.
Yeah,
That
correct.
while the whole world was in teletherapy, my bond itself was in teletherapy as well
That's a
during
good
COVID.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we were ready for it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. So, after that, how was your journey? Like, what made you decide to go to New Zealand? Tell us about that.
yeah. So coming to New Zealand was more sort of like a luck thing rather than a plan. After my bond, I knew I would move back to North because I'm from the North. I'm from Patna. I'm from Bihar. So even though I'd studied in Mysore and my Kannada is not that great, but still I
Mm.
could communicate and take therapy. But I knew like my language proficiency was not that great for
Mm-hmm.
me to like be
Something
really
new.
as an
Mm.
asset as a speech therapist in our profession. So I knew like if for me to be able to deliver good clinical therapy and practice, I would be moving back north. And so I moved back north. I was working in a private setup for a while, and
In
but
Patna
I had
only?
act. No, I was working in Noida
Okay.
for a private company. And early intervention clinical
Mm-mm.
setups, jo hote, therapy and OT and sort of that. But I had started preparing my documents for abroad from the time I had started bond. But I
Okay.
didn't know where I was going, but I knew that most places have a common requirements.
Yeah.
So I knew that before, because if I go north, coming to south again was a bit difficult. So I was like, before I leave the campus, I should have all my documents in order. Just makes things easy. Plus, once you leave, then you have to like time it correctly and this and that. So I had started preparing from 2020, and I came here only in 2022.
Okay, okay.
So yeah,
2 years.
um, 2 years. But essentially, what that meant that I had memorized every other country come requirements, kya tha, just going over it over and
Correct.
over,
Yeah.
doing my own research and stuff. New Zealand was finalized because my dear husband was based here.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
yeah, so he had moved here like a long, sorry, he had moved here a long time ago.
Okay.
So it just made sense for me to move here rather than him
Correct.
having to
Yeah, yeah.
move and me having to start somewhere. So then I started focusing on what New Zealand's requirements were.
Mm.
And yeah, the NZSTA website had a list of
Mm.
requirements. So I was very focused on gathering the documents according to that. And I had a look just before our call. So some of the requirements have changed in
Mhm.
the favor of making it easy.
Oh, okay. Not bad.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. So I had a look again what the requirements were. So yeah, kind of prepared my documents based on what was needed. And what I also did, like if I had any questions and stuff, I would like write them an email, like kind of compile all my questions over a period of time and just compile it in an email and send them across. And then after little bit of time, they would let us know
Okay,
what
okay.
exactly because of course you have questions.
Mm.
But the thing was that you have to be really sure of what you're asking. If it's like really open-ended, they also would like kind of redirect you back to what the requirements are.
Mm.
Right. Like if it's very general, like what documents do I need? Well,
It's
we
already there
can't
on the
tell you.
website. Yeah.
Yeah. So also because so many people would apply, it's a global
Hmm.
website, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
based on what kind of evidence you have and
Correct.
what we are looking for. So my questions would be like that, like this is what I have, this is how. Sorry, is it noisy for you?
No, no, not at
No,
all.
okay. So yeah, like these are the documents I have. This is the clinical course that I have worked in because we'd have syllabus copy, now one page and stuff.
Correct,
So I'd
correct.
be like, this is what it looks like, and I had questions around the dysphagia thing as well. Because I was like, I don't know the way we are taught here if it's acceptable or not. So like really specific questions of
Mm-mm.
what would be a good evidence to submit, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of evidence are you looking for,
Okay.
what qualifies to meet these criteria and stuff. And they were like, yeah, absolutely very helpful. So they would give like really helpful answers, like this is what we're looking for. If you have something like this, we can accept A, B, C, and D forms
Okay, okay.
in terms of evidence. So kind of just gradually built on those things over a period of time. Plus, in the middle of COVID, the borders were closed.
Mm.
So it didn't so I knew like I couldn't come here, and until I could come here I couldn't work. So that was also happening, so it
Okay,
kind
yeah.
of gave me more time to prepare.
Prepare.
But
Okay.
yeah, and just get all my documents in order. But honestly, the process wasn't that difficult if you just
Okay.
have all the documents in the correct order and everything up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's pretty straightforward. You just upload everything on the
Okay.
portal and kind of just wait for their
Oh,
decision. Yes.
okay, okay. And where do you work currently? Just get into
Yeah.
the work-related questions because a
Yeah.
lot of the people who would message you or message me, young SLPs who want to go abroad
Yeah.
and probably have
Yeah.
New Zealand on their list, the
Yeah.
most common question is what is the minimum qualifications to apply for a job in New Zealand?
Yep. So that's why I was having a look at this stuff. So
Yeah, well,
initially, I remember, yeah, because I memorized it from my time.
correct.
I remember that the requirements used to say a minimum a master's from
Okay,
like not New Zealand trained individuals.
okay.
But so if you are trained in New Zealand, which means like you've studied here in one of the universities, they would have accepted a bachelor's. But if you're
Mm-mm.
applying from overseas, a minimum was a master's.
Mm.
So I had a look again now, and it doesn't say that
Oh,
anymore. It
okay.
says, yes, it says a bachelor's or a master's, but it should be as per the registration requirements of NZSTA, which is the National Speech Therapist Association here, the body.
Association. Okay, okay.
Yep.
So I'll add the
So
website link below probably. Yeah.
yes, yes. So like how USA has ASHA and
Correct.
Australia has SPA, Royal College of SLTs in UK. So New Zealand has NZSTA, which is New Zealand Speech-Language Therapists Association.
Okay, okay.
And yeah, so most of the how do you get to work here is there are a few very common websites which post all the job listings. And I had opened a few. I don't know, should I share a screen?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. So I was just like, okay,
Do I have
host.
to give you the permission?
Yes, yes, yeah. The host isn't allowing multiple presenter.
How do I do that? One second.
Even I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a while since allow participants to share screen.
Probably
Okay, done,
stick.
done. Yeah.
Okay, let's try now. Yeah, okay. So, mm, wonder how this works. Oh, funny. Am I still hovering?
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, but it's fine. It's good. I can still see
Okay,
the screen, so.
okay, you can still see the screen. Okay, now I need to move this so I can access the screen. How do I move this? Okay. Yeah, man. Allow. Okay, so
Okay.
what we do have here is a website called Seek,
Okay.
and then another one is called Trade Me Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is
Seek,
this specific to
LinkedIn,
New Zealand?
yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Huh.
So So Trade Me Jobs, Seek.co.nz, and LinkedIn, of course. They are the prime advertising websites. And if you just type like speech language therapist, you can find what jobs are being advertised.
Okay.
So yeah, so I kind of just clicked on one like clinical lead speech language therapist, or maybe like we could look at this.
Okay.
And so you'll find anybody who's interested can you find like job time is part-time and it's on a contract. So there will be an end time of your employment.
Correct.
And then if you go into the details what the job is or not, they give all the description and stuff.
Okay.
So for example, this one is permanent, which means your contract doesn't have an end date. It keeps going on.
Okay.
And part-time 0.8 FTE would be so 1 week, which is 5 days per week, 7.6 hours like that, is 1 FTE. So 0.8
What is
FTE,
FTE?
full-time equivalent.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So here your employment would be counted in terms of hours. How many hours are you working per day?
Okay.
So it says 32 hours per week. So it would be a conversation between you and your employer to be like, do you want to come in from, Monday to Thursday for like 7 hours a day, or do you want to come in for like 5 days, 6 hours every day, or do you want to do 3 days, 8 hours every day?
Okay.
So it kind of you kind of have those, or like what their requirements might be. So
So
they kind of
it's a
yeah.
weekly thing, so the payment is also like they pay you at the end of the week?
It depends. They can pay you fortnightly, which
Okay.
is 2 weeks, or
Weeks.
they could pay you monthly. But most commonly, we get paid every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So 15 days you get paid, and then 15 days you get paid.
Okay.
Yeah. They advertise per week the work hours, so you can decide kind
The
of
days and all that.
the
Yeah.
days, how many hours do you want to work, and all of those things.
Correct.
So yeah.
So here you've mentioned the website. So do they have the requirement even for overseas applicants right here?
They would probably, so when we kind of look about you, most of the jobs will have this, like about you. So they would tell about themselves, who the employer is, this is who we are, this is how we work. And then about you, they would tell you what the other things are. So
Okay.
be an NZSTA member with a driver's license.
Okay.
So that just means you have to look at the requirements,
In
whoever you are.
NZSTA website, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like outsourced to NZSTA to make sure that whoever is coming to have that,
Yeah, so
registration.
every SLT in the New Zealand has to be registered under NZSTA.
There's a catch there that some jobs will ask you to be eligible, which means
Okay.
you should have all the documentation, but you necessarily don't be an active member because you have to pay a membership fee
Okay.
annually. But more often than not, every job, especially health jobs, you must be an NZSTA member.
Okay.
So it is in your advantage to be an NZSTA member,
BNS.
especially overseas. If you're
Makes
overseas
sense.
trained, then yes,
Yes,
you
okay.
need to be NZSTA. And and so if any additional thing is required, they would mention that. Like here, they've mentioned experience in video
Okay.
fluoroscopy and LSVT certification would be an advantage, but not necessary.
Okay.
And support for training will be available. So
Okay.
they need someone who is LSVT trained, but they
Mm-hmm.
said like even if you're not, they would support you to get that training done.
Okay, makes sense.
But
Okay.
yeah, and so similarly, like this would be a let us see. Yeah, this is like a private specialist, like the specialist school that I was mentioning.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So be a qualified. So see, qualified speech language therapist. How do you determine that? So
Yeah.
if you are in New Zealand and you have the degree, then you are a
Then you're
qualified speech and
qualified.
language
Okay.
therapist.
And then
Qualify for
qualify for,
NZSTA.
okay. So you
So you
don't
might
necessarily
not,
have to be a member,
yeah,
but to have all
yes,
the requirements. Okay.
yes. And valid driver's license. So valid
Oh.
driver's license would be the New Zealand driver's license, or you can get your overseas one. Well, India cannot get converted, but some other countries that have agreement, they can just get converted. But
Okay.
for Indian driver's license, you have to go through the whole driving and passing the test and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really
And
interesting, huh?
yeah. And then we have something else called CAT 1 accreditation. So to
Okay.
work in the field, I can get into that. Think
Yeah,
it might
I
help?
think you can. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what this CAT accreditation means is, again, going back to public funding.
Mm,
In New Zealand, there's something called Enable, which is sort of like, you know how USA has insurance companies that fund
mm.
AAC, like a lot of Facebook groups
Correct.
post about it,
Yeah.
and someone would have seen SLPs discussing like, my insurance won't fund this, or
Yeah, yeah.
district won't fund that, or we got this through insurance. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't have that, thankfully.
Okay.
We have a national funding thing, and to be able to apply, to be able to assess and then apply for a device, you need to be Cat 1 accredited.
Mm,
Now that means you have to go through, like, it's like a professional development thing. You
mm,
have to complete the modules and kind of sit through the meetings and stuff like that. And then you complete it, and then you submit an application, you do your assessment, you do the trial, and you have to have the successful application. And then you
mm.
can be a Cat 1 accredited therapist.
Okay. But so that is not a requirement in most of the jobs.
Not necessarily. So
It would
because
be an
this is
add-on. Mm.
yes, but to get your Cat 1 accreditation, you have to be here. So it won't be
Okay,
like an
okay.
entry requirement.
Got it, got
But
it.
like the one that I said, the specialist school, because you would be working with a lot of kids who would need AAC and
Got it.
assisted
Okay,
tech
okay.
and accommodation.
Mm.
So
It
you
would.
as a person, it would be helpful. Yeah.
So would you say this is something similar along the lines of OPT training or something else like SLPs have add-on? Like, oh yeah, I'm GLP trained, oh I'm OPT trained, and the jobs would kind of ask them if you're that, or would you say it's a little
Hmm.
more than that?
I think it's a little more than that, because only New Zealand, you can only do that when you're here.
When you're
There's no
okay,
extra,
okay.
like, yeah, like OPT talk tools would give you, or GLP trained, there's like meaningful speech, or
Yeah.
there's natural communication, or there's another person.
Mm,
But that's not possible here. So because
mm.
it's very closely tied to Enable, which is a
Correct.
New Zealand
Okay. New
thing.
Zealand thing. All right.
Yeah. So but why I brought that up is, like, if someone looks at that listing and they're like,
Mm.
I'm interested,
So what
I
is this?
qualify,
Yeah.
I qualify, I have a relevant degree. But if it asks for Cat 1 and you're not Cat 1,
Mm,
then that job listing doesn't make sense to you. Like, you
correct.
won't be eligible. So it's a
Correct.
little bit of like weeding out, and some job openings you will be eligible for.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of the listings, if someone is like very invested and actively thinking about it, I would first be like, get a driver's license.
Yeah, correct. So,
Yeah.
I have a question. So, like, imagine as
Yeah.
an SLP who's applying and who's looking through these jobs. So, a lot of the things require them to be obviously NZSTA member and driver's
Hmm.
license. Can they do that sitting in India, or do they have to move to New Zealand to finish all the application process or so?
NZSTA, they can do from India as long as they have all the proper documents. So here, okay, I'll just talk through how I did it,
Yes.
and people can draw from it whatever works for them. So I was not planning to study again, because I was like, already I've studied lots. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. So how one of the key things that you have to remember when you're getting or you're working, is we get experience letters, but it says has worked here from date here to here, right? But so you have to be very specific when you ask for that experience letter from whichever your college or workplace
Okay.
is. Ask them to mention ours.
Oh, here
Because if
everything
you
is the.
give, yes. So if you go into, like, if I show one other listing, mm, actually I can just show the NZSTA membership wallet.
Mhm.
So if we go into qualification approval framework, which
Okay,
is what
okay.
overseas therapists need to do. So here it will, um, what is the criteria? So overseas can only be registered members, because we are not new graduates and we are not
Correct.
returned to practice or any of it. And we also, Indian Speech and Hearing Association and RCI don't have agreement. So mutual recognition is not valid for us. So here it says minimum 1 year, and clinical practice is no less than 36 weeks of full time with at least 30 hours per week. How
That
do
I
you
think
prove
we
that?
do, yeah, but
Yes, but unless your paper says you were
oh,
employed for 52 hours, which is essentially what we do Monday to Saturday.
yeah, 8 hours or so.
Yeah.
So you would
So,
say
yeah,
that probably telling the employer to
telling
give
an
a
employer.
letter. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
to make sure, like sometimes because they'll send, yeah, we'll send your experience letter. And so because I was aware of this, I would go back and be like, hi, can we please mention like 52 hours per week? Because I was working 52 hours a week.
Yeah.
Certified evidence of 1,000 hours of speech language therapy practice. Like, I'm not sure about other colleges, but in Aish, though, we get the clinical practicum, which has so many hours. So easily we would cross
Correct,
1,000
correct.
hours for sure. But it really helps, like, if you have work and all of your experience letters can clearly list the
Hours.
number
Okay,
of
okay.
hours, it accrues and it makes sense. Because even if you move here and you're looking at jobs, how do you prove? I'm going to say it doesn't necessarily count your India experience to which job strata you're going to start here. Because in New Zealand, and it was communicated to me, via email when I was looking for jobs and stuff, that for us, the relevant clinical experience is New Zealand clinical experience because you have to work with our population, which is a diverse
Okay.
population, and our way of working here is very different. So for our employment, the relevant experience is having worked in New Zealand.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So to get the NZSTA membership, your experience overseas counts, of course, you can get the membership. But for the pay band,
Mm,
your India experience or wherever you are might not count. It depends on one
okay,
employer
okay.
to the
Got
other.
it. Okay.
Yeah, it depends on prospective employers, how badly they want you,
Okay, okay.
negotiations, salary negotiations and stuff.
All of that matters.
Yeah, all of that matters. But they can
Okay.
say like,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Fine, makes
yeah,
sense. Okay, that's a good thing.
yeah.
So even a person with a
Mm.
bachelor's could apply to this.
Yes, yes,
Doesn't
yes,
necessarily. So does
yeah,
New Zealand have a bachelor's program for
yes,
speech therapy per se?
yep,
Because in the US it's like bachelor's in whatever and then master's in SLP.
yes, yes. So New Zealand has that as well. It's not compulsory that your bachelor's must be in speech language therapy like we have. So, like a few of my workmates and other people I know have had bachelors in different streams and then did their
Okay,
masters in speech
master's.
language therapy.
But they
But
also have a bachelor's in this.
no, bachelors in like mass media communication,
Okay, okay,
bachelors,
okay.
very
No, no, I
different.
mean, sorry, New Zealand has a bachelor's program for speech
Yes,
language
yes,
pathology as well.
yes,
Okay, okay.
yes, it does. So, okay, so if you go on NZSTA website,
Mm-hmm.
the website is quite helpful with all the
Okay,
information. So if you
okay.
go here, and I'm just gonna move this. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, careers. And then if we go in how to become an SLT,
Mm,
so there are lots of stuff. So which university program? So it for those who have not yet completed the bachelor's, there's Massey University with honors, and this
okay.
Massey University course is distance,
Okay. Oh,
which is
okay.
all online.
But,
And then University of Canterbury has a bachelor's, and those who already have a bachelor's degree can do masters from University of Auckland or University of Canterbury.
that you have to be there.
Yes, that is in person because they have block placements and other things. So the
Got it.
Massey University degree is distance, completely distance. But
Okay, okay.
however, for whoever thinks of listens to this and is like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting, you will have to do your due diligence because I don't know what the eligibility criteria is. Do you have to
Mm,
be? I I think even if you don't live here, there will be a condition where you have to come in because you will have to do placements
yeah,
and
makes sense.
other things
And
like that.
yeah, why would you want to do a bachelor's again when I mean, most of the people
Oh
who would
yeah,
be watching this would already have a BSLP degree, I'm guessing.
true, 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 true.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That was really
yeah,
helpful because I think the website is really helpful and you gave us a walkthrough
yes,
of it. So
yeah,
another general question is there's no exam or such because no, nothing of that sort, right? Just like
no.
CCCs, you need to clear an exam or whatever. But
Mm.
once you have the required
DHA
documents,
also is an exam.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
once you
yeah,
have the
yeah.
required documents, you can just apply and then you become an NZSTA member.
Yeah,
Okay. There's a fee,
it's
obviously.
pretty straightforward. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a fee, and it's pretty straightforward. And I've got some messages before being like, I want to apply, but like I just want to be really sure all my documents are fine because I don't want it rejected. So in that case, I would say like be thorough. If you have questions, email and ask. Like
Okay. Okay.
just make sure your questions are you have done your research and you really cannot find the answer
Okay.
and do that. And uh, And then if they need any document, like if you have submitted a good application and there's an evidence that they're looking for, because they're also looking, they're operating from a positive place, they're operating from a
Makes
trusted
sense. Correct,
viewpoint.
correct.
So if they are looking for something else, they will reach out to you. They will send you
Mm.
an email being like, hi, we're reviewing your application. Would
Mm.
you have
Okay.
any other form of evidence for this, this
Mm.
level of skill or whatever? And you can submit your documents. So it won't be like, straight up reject unless your
Reject. Okay.
documents are like not there at all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Uh, so they do reach out and ask if needed, and only if they feel like, no, it doesn't meet our criteria or
Okay.
our
Okay.
standard or our quality framework, would then your application be rejected.
Mm.
But you should be confident and thorough with
Okay. Okay.
documentation. But it's like subtle things, like how I mentioned, like, does your experience letter have number of hours
Hours.
mentioned?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question is, does this like expire the membership? Do you have to keep,
Mm.
yeah, like I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
yearly fee, and also do
Yes.
you have to keep maintaining your credits, like how we do it for, yeah, okay.
Yes. And here's the catch. And here's again, like I said, like in my head, I had been planning for a very long time. In one of the requirements, if someone's reading through the requirements, there is also evidence of continuing professional development, or the
Mm-hmm.
CPD, which again, most of the SLT organizations,
Correct, correct.
US, whichever country you go, even RCI has that.
Yes, correct.
Um, so what the but here's the question, like you have to ask yourself, what form of evidence will be accepted by NZSTA? So if you look through the things, or like how a lot of online courses say ASHA CEUs approved,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
so they're like, oh, if you do this course you're going to get these points,
correct,
kind of a thing.
correct. Yeah.
So you kind of have to be aware of which points will be accepted. So if you do like a course here which is not accepted by NZSTA, then it doesn't
Doesn't,
matter.
yeah, okay, okay. So are there
So
like
yeah,
conferences or like webinars or something which are particularly held for the sake of getting your CPDs?
yep. So again, if you are an NZSTA member, so there are, uh, so I served as area representative for a little while.
Oh, okay, huh.
So there's a whole section of overseas members. So members
Mm,
who are NZSTA but are not living in New Zealand. So there could
got
be
it.
like New Zealand citizens who are maybe abroad and are
Okay,
maintaining their membership here while working somewhere else, or like some people who are also based in India and have
okay.
got their NZSTA membership. Maybe they're looking to move at some point. So we have another whole like overseas SLTs who are also members. What they do get is access to webinars, and
Mm,
there's a web page here of
mm,
NZSTA. Where is it? Um, Here, online CPD.
mm-hmm.
So if we go to this, we can like kind of
Okay,
log
okay.
in, and then you get access to some. You have to pay like $25,
Okay, okay.
$25. There's CPDs here, and if you complete these ones, like because this is NZSTA's
Mm,
online professional development. So these points will count. And
okay.
there are others as well, but it's not limited to this. So when I submitted my evidence, I hadn't completed all of these, but I had kind of invested in OPT. I had Avaska certification,
Okay,
and
okay, yeah.
yeah, so I had done Asha CU's
Oh,
courses
okay, okay.
and some of the other ones, yeah, like which were valid internationally.
Got it. Okay, okay.
So those really helped. Like
Mm,
I would say, my OPT and my master's study the course
mm,
framework,
mm, mm.
um, and my experience in a hospital setup
That
helped
helped.
with
Okay,
my dysphagia being like, yes, I've worked in this field,
got it, got it.
so it counted. Um, yeah, so that's always a consideration. Like if you're planning to apply for any of these foreign associations, you kind of have to
Does it
make
have
sure
the
that
certificate? Yeah.
where's your money going?
Okay,
Like,
okay.
yes, the international courses are quite expensive, and
Mm.
I know, and I remember OPT being more than my salary. But
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it was good because I had like reached out to the organizers. I was like, I really want to do this, but I don't have the money. So they had like offered to split the payment in
Mm.
two,
Correct, correct.
and
Okay.
I could do that.
Yeah, sorry, I was just thinking about
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
So all of these certifications which you do, does it like the, you have to do it yearly these many times or some? Yeah.
yeah. It's continuing professional development. So once you get your membership done, okay, you're a NZSTA member, you will get access to the website. You'll have your own member portal, and every year
So getting in together.
you need to have like 60 points every year. How are you gathering? So if you're working here, it's easy because there will
Mm,
be lots of upskilling opportunities and you'll get access to a few things. And there will be modules on NZST website
correct,
and other
correct.
webinars and things that you can do to meet that. And it doesn't have to be just these international, paid ones.
Mm-mm.
Points like working on a complex case or working, reading research review articles, doing supervision,
Oh
those kinds
yeah,
of
yeah,
things
yeah.
also
That also
count.
adds. Correct, correct.
Yeah, those also count.
Okay, okay.
Um, and all of that combines. And so minimum requirement is you should have 60 points per year.
Mm.
And you need to have that to renew. And then you have to pay like the membership fee for a
Okay,
year.
okay.
The membership fee varies based on how many hours you're working. So
Got
it's
it. Okay.
tied to that. If you're working full time, this much.
Okay,
If you're
okay.
working part time, you have to pay this much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we've gone through all the questions about work related. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
What about the interview for the job you apply for? Is it a video interview? Was it something which they asked you a lot about the role? What can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, okay. I've only ever worked in the ministry, so I can only talk about that, to
Okay,
be honest.
okay.
But what I've heard from like a few of my friends and other people who have also who are working in health and otherwise,
Mm-mm.
most of the time the interview model that they follow here, and they will tell you if you are appearing for the interview, the email will usually tell you that this is the kind of interview we'll do. So they
Oh,
kind of
okay.
let you know, yeah, they let you know
Prepare
in
you.
advance. Yeah, so they'll tell you can have a support person if you want. You
Whoa,
can,
okay.
yeah, I was told you can bring a support person if you want. And these will be the kind of questions we would be asking. And we want you to kind of think about what might your answer be, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, okay, huh.
And so, kind of like going in, having well thought of, and they send you like a few things as well, being like, and this is how we work. These are our ethical guidelines.
Okay, okay.
Recommended to have a read, but it's not compulsory.
Mm.
So, how I've given 2 interviews now for different roles, but all within ministry. So, it's called behavioral interview. You
Mm-hmm.
can anybody can Google that term, and there's like, ooh, I actually found something I can share. So it's called behavioral interviews, and this particular PDF is from careers.govt.nz,
Okay.
which is a government website here where if you can type any profession, and it
Okay,
kind of
okay,
helps you
huh,
out
huh.
with. So it's mostly for like kids, people who are coming out of high school, or not just kids actually, anybody to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Correction, anybody, you can find details. So star would be they'll give you a situation.
Okay,
It'll be like, tell us a time when you had to work through a really difficult family dynamic. And
okay.
then
Mm.
you have to explain, and then you have to tell, okay, how did you respond to that situation? What did you do? And then what happened as a result of what you did? So
Okay,
it
okay.
could be like another question could be like, tell me or tell us about a time that there was disagreement at work or some difficulty with your workmates or colleagues. How did you? Oh, how? What kind of situation? Or have you faced something
Okay,
like this?
okay.
And where you have to be like, yeah, I once had this disagreement, and the
Okay,
way we
okay.
approached this. So a lot of like, how do you approach life? And
Hmm.
yeah, from my interview, I think this much about my clinical stuff
And it's
and this much about the
okay.
behavioral stuff.
So
Yeah.
behavioral interview. Okay, that's new. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So the idea, I would say the ideology behind it is even if your clinical skills are still developing,
Mm.
we can give you the opportunities to learn and upskill and do the
Mm.
training and learn on the
Okay,
job and
okay.
everything. But if you lack on the behavioral aspect,
That is, yeah. Nobody can teach you that. So,
yeah,
okay.
so it's because a lot of like most so far that everything that I've said, you would have an idea that's a very like you said,
Mm.
interdisciplinary, working with a lot of people,
Lot of
working with a lot
people.
of
Yeah.
adults, working with
Correct,
wider
correct.
population. So you
Yeah.
really need to have really, really good
Correct.
soft
Yeah.
skills and being able to work with a larger group because it's not just about you
Correct,
and the
correct.
person.
Yeah.
So they are very, very selective around who they think would be a good fit for the whole team.
Mm,
So once you come on board and onto a team, your team, like you should just fit in, you should gel in, or you should be
got it.
open to learn. So yeah, the behavioral part is a very
Okay,
significant part
okay,
of selection.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we've spoken about how to look for jobs, how does the job work, and also about your work. So could you also tell me a little bit about, so we've spoken about how SLPs can work in a public or a private sector. They can work
Yep.
in schools and like what you do, like all over.
Yeah.
But other questions like medical SLPs, do you know a little bit about that? Do they work in
Yeah.
hospitals? Can you just tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
So some of my friends who work in the hospital setup, it really varies which hospital you are part of. So New Zealand, the map of New Zealand, we have North Island and South Island, and all of it is like how in India we have states. Here we have
Mm-hmm.
regions,
Okay.
and so within a region you'll have like small districts, and every district will have their
Okay.
own
Okay.
health organization. So it's not compulsory or it's not necessary that if you know how this region works, the others are all going to work
Oh,
the
okay,
same.
okay, huh.
So it varies because the population varies, the expectation varies, everything. Yeah, so it can change, but essentially, so far what I've heard is like some hospital setups might run clinics, which means
Mm-hmm.
people can walk in and you do assessments and provide
Okay,
intervention and
okay,
guidelines, and then they're on their way, and they come back
okay.
like few months, like you give them a next appointment, so you do a review in 3 months to see what helped. Some hospitals might do like every like block therapy. So I'll see you every fortnight, and we'll do a lot of
Okay,
one-on-one
okay.
work. And the parent will also be upskilled, and you'll have a proper program that you're running. So it can be that. Some will also work in like a feeding clinic where it's all about you'll work closely with a dietitian.
Mm,
So working around sensory needs, restrictive feeding, maybe the child has had tracheostomy, and
okay,
uh,
okay.
or restrictive diet, or just or did an MBS and there's risk of aspiration and other complications. So you're just working on feeding.
So there's a,
And
okay, yeah, tell me, finish it off.
yeah. And if you're working with adults, you could be in the acute clinic where you're in hospital, or you could be part of the outreach team, which is still a hospital job, but you're working with people who have been discharged from the hospital and are now back in their homes. So you're driving to their home and providing therapy there, or they could come
Okay,
and see you at the outreach service center.
okay.
So
So it's a
lots of
varied,
levels.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Very, very varied. There's different ways of working, and
Okay.
I think it's designed in a way to suit the person. So some people might be like, I prefer someone come to my home, and you have outreach service centers. Some people might be like, I prefer to go to a place, and then you have clinics or
Mm,
societies that run. There's also like Alzheimer's Society, Dementia Society, Stroke New Zealand. There are like societies that also hire speech language therapists. So you could work for those organizations.
okay, okay.
There's a unique thing in New Zealand also called ACC, which is accident. I don't know the full form, accident
Mm,
claim and cover, something like that.
okay, okay.
So if you work for ACC, you're primarily working in health, and you're working with people like individuals, like adults or children, who have communication difficulties as a result of accident. An accident can be anything. It could be medical accident, road traffic
Okay,
accident, some other kind of work-related accidents.
okay, okay.
So sort of like insurance, but not. Again, it's funded by tax and
Mm,
government sort of, and if you're working, a part of your salary goes to ACC cover.
okay, okay. That's
Yeah,
okay. So different. That's
so
a
lots.
little unique,
Yeah,
like you said.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So you can
Okay.
work for
So
that as well.
where
Yeah,
do you stay in New Zealand?
I used to live in a place in a town on the east
Mm-mm.
side called Gisborne, but we have moved to Wellington just very recently, which
Okay.
is the capital city. Yeah.
Capital, right? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the setting varied from there to here.
Yes.
Okay. Is it different? You like it?
Yeah, I like it. Of course, it's still within the ministry, but I said like it will vary a lot from one
Correct,
region to
correct. One
another.
that
So
part, yeah.
yeah. So here in the capital city, there's much more like a city, so the population is
Mhm.
much bigger. In Gisborne, it was more of a population was rural. So again, there's like a New Zealand element to it. People love living in rural areas here because they love the nature element to it.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, the cities are densely populated,
Mhm.
but you'll also find like some people really hold on to living in the
Okay,
outbacks or
got it.
far
Okay.
away. So that's where the driving part comes in.
Got
You have
it.
to take
Driver's
the
license.
service to them. Yes. So
Yeah.
you have to go all the way out to where people are living.
Okay.
And because it's so widespread, a lot of the jobs will need you to have that driver's license
Okay.
because
Got it.
it's not necessary that you're just going to be in one physical location. Yeah.
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 Okay. Can you give us okay, we'll just talk a little
Yeah.
bit about the visa part and then we'll come back to this.
Yep.
So,
Cool.
you get a work visa when you're there, right? And
Yeah. You need to have a work visa to work here.
oh, okay, okay. So who gives the work visa?
So Immigration New Zealand would be the people. And so here's the tricky element. So you can have NZSTA while you're in India, but getting a job or getting visa is the bigger work
Mm,
that you need to
okay,
do.
okay.
So yeah, you have your documentations in order, you have like everything in order, you've got your NZSTA membership, great. But to find or to be able to come here, you need to have the visa, which is
Mm,
a valid work visa. How do you get the work visa? So you can apply for jobs and
mm,
you can do the interview and you're like successful in the interview and everything. There are only a few people who can sponsor a visa or like give you the letter, which will
mm.
let immigration give you the work visa. And they are called accredited employers.
Okay.
Yep. So if you go to Immigration New Zealand's website and you search for like accredited employers, there's a whole list. Like these are the accredited employers. So if you secure a job with one of these employers, they can give you their letter will be considered valid to give you a visa.
Okay. So
So that
my question is,
further
does
narrows down.
yeah,
Yeah.
so does this come first or the work applying thing come first?
Well, you can't apply for work without having a job offer.
Correct.
It's really tied to each other.
Okay.
In most of my conversations with like the friends who have one of the friends who had worked in another place is that NZSTA feels a bit of work, but that's like your first step because getting the NZSTA, like even if some of the jobs did say like qualify for membership, but if you apply for the interview, and it depends, are they accredited employers? Because if they're not, then it won't help in your visa.
So
Like you
there's
can get
no
a job, but it
point.
won't.
So like you have an NZSTA membership, you apply for a job, but there's no point in doing applying for the job or giving the interview if they're not accredited at all because they can't sponsor your
Yeah.
work visa then.
Yeah, and if even if you apply, sometimes they themselves will tell
That
that
we don't have.
we can't hire you. So I did get a lot of emails because I was applying from a while. Most of my emails were the fact that we like your CV and it seems great, but we need someone in the country.
Got
So,
it, got it.
all the best for looking. So
Okay.
that's another thing. Like you'll hear back from them. You'll get the rejection if they're
Okay,
not a
okay.
accredited employer. So Te Whatu Ora, which is Health New Zealand, which is the hospital setup, public hospital, they are accredited employers. But to work for hospital, you must be an NZSTA member.
Okay. So
So if
everything
yeah,
is like tied in,
it's
like you said.
tied in.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
everything is like little conditions apply. So if you want to think of it in a very straightforward way,
Mm,
you have to be an NZSTA member because then it opens up the other job opportunities for you. Then whichever job you're applying for, they will be accredited employers,
correct,
and if they see your like apply for it, give your CV, mention
correct.
you're an NZSTA member. If they're an accredited employer, they'll give you a
Go ahead.
chance. If
Yeah.
they're not, they'll let you know that sorry, we want someone in the country.
Okay, okay.
And then if you get through, then they'll give you the letter which you can use then to get your work visa from Immigration New Zealand.
Okay, okay.
But your immigration thing is a whole other requirement. So
Okay.
immigration has a set of, I think the most important thing to prove there would be your salary, because New Zealand is an expensive country.
Mm,
So what immigration would want to see is that you are being paid enough to be
okay.
able to sustain a living here.
Makes
So,
sense.
so if your job offer does not guarantee a good salary, then they will deny you visa because
Okay.
they'll be like, you can't survive here with that salary. So
Mm,
sorry.
okay,
But
okay.
yeah, yeah. But usually, if you're applying for an SLT job, it will be decently paid
Well,
for you to
okay.
be able to survive here. Yeah,
Okay, so the work visa is there for a couple of years. Then can you apply for a PR? How does the PR work in
yeah,
New Zealand?
yep. So the speech language therapist role is on the green list, which is a
Okay.
great news,
Oh,
which
okay,
means
okay.
straight to residency. So if
Okay.
you do come here on work visa and it's tied to speech language therapist role, then you are eligible for straight to residency pathway, which is if you submit your necessary documents, you can become a resident straight
Any
away.
couple of minimum years requirement?
No,
Oh, wow. Okay.
immigration doesn't need it.
Okay, okay. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't think it's years. I think it will just depend on your stay here and
Mm,
the validity of your contract with your employer.
okay, okay, okay.
So, or you can find out more along those lines, like going into Immigration New Zealand's website and just reading through. And a lot of conditions change based on who your employer is. So I know of people
Got it.
who work for Te Whatuora. They would have a contract with Health New Zealand, where Health New
Mm,
Zealand is like, we are giving you the work visa on condition that you're going to work for us for 2 years or 3 years.
okay, okay, okay.
So your visa is tied to that contract. It's not, I won't say it's like, if I really don't like the job, that means I'll not have my visa. It's not like that. If you really don't like your job, you can still switch jobs. They don't like tie
Mm.
you down like that.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, just conditions do apply,
Got it.
and
Okay.
you can always, if you're unhappy, there's no like, it's not exploitative, is what I would
Mm.
like to say. It sounds like that, but it's not. If
Okay,
you don't,
okay.
you're unhappy, you can change your jobs
Oh,
without like being kicked out of the country and all.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about visa. Can we talk? So we've spoken a little bit about the masters and the universities which are
Hmm.
available in New Zealand. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the fees would be pretty high. So because we've already spoken about it, my general question is if you're aware of it, would
Hmm.
you recommend an SLP who's done their bachelor's in India to come and do their masters in New Zealand? Or would you really say
Hmm.
that, I mean, I don't know, it's depending on that person, but do you have any input regarding that?
Yeah, like some I had got a message around this as well. But it depends. I would say it would be entirely this, individual person's decision. If you do a master's here, then things will definitely get easier for you because
Mm,
you would be studying here and you would have the new graduate framework. You would be working within the New Zealand system. So becoming an NZSTA member is easier. And then
mm.
as part of the masters, you get placements and stuff. So you will get to see a few different workplaces
Yeah.
and yeah, gather that experience and everything. Having said that, as an international student, the fees is going to be really
Fees,
high.
yeah, yeah.
So the question goes back to, can you afford it? And
Correct.
if you can, then things are really easy for you. But if
Correct.
finance is, big what if, then I guess it would be worth looking into what the fee structure is, what education loan can do,
Loans,
and
yeah,
then
correct.
kind of comparing it to this salary scale here
Mm,
and getting an estimate of where you would want to live, because if
mm,
you're living in Auckland versus in a rural place, your expense is going to vary. But it again depends on the jobs. Where are
mm.
the jobs? How
Okay,
much will
okay.
I get paid? And then having to pay back your loan and everything. So it's sort of, I would say, personal decision. Depends
Yeah,
on how invested you are.
correct. I mean,
Yeah,
if the
but yeah.
person wants to work in New Zealand, because
Hmm.
master's is not a requirement, like you can do a master's in India or bachelor's in India and then apply for a work
Hmm.
permit there. I don't think it is necessary for the person to do a master's in New Zealand, but again, individual choice. If you really want to study there and see how it
Yeah.
is and you can afford it, I think then you can look at it probably.
Yeah. And I would advise anyone like to keep looking at the websites because requirements keep changing. So by the
Changing.
time we're
Okay,
recording
yeah.
this video, it will be something.
Correct,
Whenever you're
correct.
watching, always go and have a look at the website because
Okay,
even
yeah.
like something as simple as IELTS requirement has changed. Because when I gave the IELTS requirement was 8.5, right now it's 7 in all
Oh,
modules.
okay, okay.
So yeah, subtle things like that keep changing. So right now it says bachelor's or master's, most of the
Mhm.
job descriptions, but things can change. We don't know. And so
Yeah,
best point is to actually go to the source of information and check.
correct,
And
correct.
a word of advice would be like, yes, right now it says bachelor's or master's and you have to submit. But let's say you did your bachelor's like 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And then in these 3 years, if you haven't done a lot of CPD courses
Correct.
and you don't have that evidence, then NZSTA might as well email and say,
Yeah,
hey,
makes
we
sense.
don't have all the things we need.
Correct,
So
correct,
it won't be valid. So it is, you will have to look at every
correct,
single
correct.
point and kind of be able to be like, yep, I have a master. I did my masters. I didn't do my masters, but every year I have done this course and this
Yeah,
course and this
I'm
course,
still
and I
in
have a
touch.
wealth.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I have a wealth of documentation, and I have clinical hours to qualify as like a really experienced therapist. Then yeah, you're fine to apply.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Okay, a few questions about the SLT world over there. How is the work-life balance?
Pretty good. I
Yeah,
mean, I worked in Delhi, so when I came here, I was kind of like,
I was like,
took me a
whoa,
while to
what's this?
adjust, being like, whoa, what's this kind of thing. Yeah, New Zealand, I would say in general, across all professions, there's a very um, social understanding and a high stress on work-life balance, high stress, great focus on
Okay,
work-life
okay.
balance. It also shows on your day-to-day living.
Mhm.
So it like most places shut down by 5.
Oh
Only
yeah.
in big
I've heard this
cities.
even in Australia. They're
Yes.
like, what do we
Yes.
do? Like everything closes at 5.
Yes. So because if you have to go home, they also have to go home.
Yeah.
So plan your day, 5:30, everything. Only supermarkets and things like big chains will be open because they can afford to pay their staff the extra hours, per hourly rate. But most local businesses will be closed by
Mm.
5. And big cities, you can find businesses running like till 10, 11, and
Okay,
other
okay.
late, but not in rural areas. And or like not big cities, which is
Okay.
Christchurch, Wellington, and Auckland. If you're not in these three places, no. And
Mm.
yeah, and so that work-life balance mindset flows
Mm,
into
mm, mm, mm.
sort of every job. So not just you, but also the teachers you're
Everybody
working with,
else. Okay,
also the
okay,
DJs you're working with, also the parents, also the
okay.
health, also the
Right.
doctor.
That
So
really
yeah,
makes a difference. So
yeah.
burnout isn't that big of a thing over there because you're not overworking, would you say?
I think it's still a theme here, burnout, but I would say it's the burnout would be because there's a lot of need and not enough of us therapists.
Correct.
So, and because a lot of us, like how NHS, you would like, a lot of people might have seen reels and stuff being like, NHS is struggling and like our therapists and our doctors are facing burnouts and, we are overworked kind. So, the same thing we have, it's nowhere close to NHS cover the 3, 5, 10-year wait list.
Yeah.
But we have a wait list
Mm.
being in public. And people, obviously, anyone who's in the field wants to help and work. So there often does happen a point where you have stretched yourself and you're trying to
Mm.
meet the demands, but there's just not enough people to do the
Correct.
amount of work there is. So yeah, burnout does happen. But what I would say that there is a very active SLT field and a very active overall workspace field. To the point of like submissions to the parliament and NZSTA and like
Awesome.
other agencies. Yep, even there's unions here and like teachers organization, and everybody talks about burnout. So it is a theme that you can discuss with your people, whoever you're working for, being like, I'm feeling stressed. I don't think this is working for me, or I need some break. And I would say like culturally, people are more open to having those conversations and accepting that you're a human
Okay.
and you get
Correct.
tired,
Makes sense. Okay.
so you need a break. I
Yeah.
mean, I have also gone to the point of burnout, and then
Yeah. Correct.
and people can spot. So we do have like check-ins with our managers and check-ins with our teammates and
Mm.
just the workmates in general, and they will be like, okay, you seem stressed, and like what's happening, and then kind of tailoring your workload, being like,
Mm.
we're going to make a plan for the next 3 weeks. This is how I want you to do, and let's look at why this is adding to your workload, and kind of like, so yeah, it I don't know how much of it
Like
would
there
make
is, but you
sense
can
on video.
manage it. Yeah, yeah.
You can talk about it
Talk about it. Yeah, that
and
makes,
find a solution,
yeah.
and people will be more than happy to like, it won't be like pull up your socks and deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
They will be like, okay, how do we make it manageable?
Correct,
Should
correct.
we for the next 3 weeks, or do you need to take time off
Mm.
without
Okay.
feeling guilty for it?
That's
So
really
yeah,
nice. Mm.
like yeah, like I would say, like especially if you compare with India, where it's like burnout, what burnout?
What are you
We're
talking
paying you.
about?
What are you talking about? Go deal with it. No, and here another thing is supervision. I
Mm-mm.
mean, if you're so in that CPD thing that NZSTA has, there's also a unit on supervision. So supervision would mean me and another SLT, could be my peer, could be my senior, or someone who has had this training to be a supervisor. And you kind of unpack your clinical case and you discuss and you say, man, this is what I'm doing, but this is not working out. And they will help you. Help you. I'll have to add something to it because, okay, I really want to say this to all the young kids, all the ones who are doing bachelors and whatnot. There's one thing you really need to learn, and that is that the culture in our Asian culture and the Western culture really differs on one line, which is individualism. So we are brought up in a very and there was a very interesting paper I came across in a conference as well, that if you were growing up in one of like community cultures, it was called, so Asian cultures and Arabic cultures and stuff, where you're part of a community at large. So the kids find it really easy to ask for help and are
Mm.
aware of like da da da, but also face a lot of societal expectation, pressure, burnout, things like that.
Correct.
And then there were like individualistic communities. So what that would mean is, you as a person, what do you
Mm.
want to do? What do you think? How would you solve it? And that's where you'll come to work, if you plan to come to work. So asking what should I do here, or how do I do this, will not work. So
Okay, so
so
you need to have your plan. You need to have your own
yes,
ideas.
yes, you have to be very self-sufficient. That is not to say that people don't want to help you.
Correct, correct.
That is to say, have you thought about this? What are the solutions you have come up with? What have you tried already? Why do you think it's not working?
Mm.
Let's find a way forward. That's essentially like all my supervision. So if I go into a supervision
It's
with my
they're not going to
supervisor,
spoon feed you the answer. No.
no, 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 not even at your workplace. So when I started working, completely lost, everybody was super helpful. I could shadow, I could watch, but you very keenly have to observe and be able to ask the right questions. So they weren't going to be like, okay, these are your kids and this is what you do. And on this date, you go do this. And then no, how are you going? What do you think? What should be the next step? What makes sense to you, kind of thing.
Mm.
So you have to like make those calls, make those decisions, understand clinical thinking, reasoning it out. Why am I
Correct.
suggesting this? Why do I think this should go in the plan? Why do I think 2 weeks is a good time to catch up again? Or being able to actually honestly say, you know what, like I said it a lot.
Mm.
I don't have all the information. I
Yeah.
need more time to come and see you. I will need to meet you one more time to understand how this works so I can give you proper advice and to do that. So you can learn for sure, but you really need to have that difference of being like, someone's gonna tell me. That
Yeah.
won't happen.
I mean, we're so used to that, right? We're like,
Yes.
well, the supervisor's going to tell
Yeah.
you exactly what to do, and they expect you to have the same answer as them. They don't have
Yes.
this like individuality, as you said.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't really let you be an individual because they kind of want you to follow their principle, what they have in
Yeah,
mind for
they
the
are
child.
coming from a very authority
Community,
based
yeah.
thing. Like Manika, I told you, follow, like, what my senior has said. And here that the authority thing is very like, I
Yeah.
won't say there's authority. Like I would address my managers by first name and like
Mm.
very chill. So it's like, you are working, I am working. There's dignity of labor across all. What do you think? What does this person think? And what
Mm-hmm.
everybody has equal say. So
Okay.
nobody's going to come and tell you, I do this because I said so.
Correct,
So if you go
correct.
in, have your sheet with ready to be like, I tried this and this didn't work. And I thought of this and I've thought of this and I've thought of this. Can you help me figure out? And it
Mm.
will be all reflective questions and reflective
Correct, correct,
this.
correct.
And they'll send you away with be like, soch ke aao. Then we'll
Mm.
catch up.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Okay. That's
Yeah.
nice. So you would say the SLP community over there is pretty strong and you have people to rely on and talk to and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
And it's
Okay.
all designed in a way that you can support one another.
Mm.
And there are, of course, gaps in every system. I won't say it's
Mm.
not like a utopia and magical unicorn land. Every system has its,
Of course.
strengths and things that they're working on. But at least, like I would say, like there's an organization, like most of the countries, they're working towards a common goal. They acknowledge the things that they're supposed to be doing. There are people who are unhappy with things. There are people who are happy with things. But
Mm.
there's a conversation of a direction, like where are we
Mm.
going? Where is this going? Which I felt was really not that organized,
Correct.
where you work in sort of isolation and things are happening as is. But we are such a big country with so
Yeah.
many things to look at.
You have so many
It's
steps
just
to go.
so many stuff. So it's like they're like, let's solve the common problems
Yeah.
and then we'll reach these
Yeah.
other issues,
Correct,
sort of a
correct.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. You were talking about the need for SLP. So do you think there is a, you much like I think even in India we have that, even though we have a lot
Mm.
more SLPs than many other countries, there's still so much need for SLPs because the
Yeah.
caseload and everything is rising. Would you say the same for New
Yeah.
Zealand?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the whole world's demography of aging population.
Correct.
Um, Valid here as well. Huge need of SLPs here as well, as
Right.
is in every other country. So yeah, and which is why like it's a green list means we desperately need this. This is a
Need.
highly
Okay.
skilled
Okay.
area,
Correct.
skills shortage.
Okay.
Yes, so that's why it's a, like nurses and amongst other professions, it is a straight to residency pathway. So yeah, a highly valued job. But having said that, there are quality bars in place. So they're like, we want you, but only if you
But
meet this.
this.
But this is a quality
Okay. Okay.
threshold. If you cross it,
Got it.
yes, you're more than welcome to come.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the median salary for SLPs. Is it available
Yeah.
on the NZSTA website or?
Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say like so there wouldn't be like a general salary range,
Mhm.
but like most of the job listings that we look at. So for example, just looking there was one that I saw. Hang on. Because they'll see something like Kiwi Saver and all. I could tell
Mhm.
what that was. Me here. Maybe this one. No,
Okay.
hang on. Job description. I honestly saw. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So something like this. So
Range. Okay.
yeah. So a lot of jobs will advertise, and if they haven't advertised, you can email and ask, like, can you tell us
Mhm.
the salary range for this? But I am planning to apply,
Mhm.
but it needs to meet my, criteria for whatever. And so they would give you a salary range, and it says, but it doesn't mean like it stops there. It's just a range, but again, salary negotiations vary. So successful candidate will be appointed, which reflects their skills and experience.
Okay. Okay.
Um, this Kiwi Saver thing is
Mm.
sort of like Provident Fund, which we have in
Okay.
India.
Okay.
So yeah, that retirement fund,
Goes towards your
annuation
retirement.
fund.
All right.
Yeah. So here, what happened? I don't know. Do employers contribute in India? I'm not too sure. I never had the salary
Yeah.
range to qualify for that.
I know. And a
Yeah.
lot of us work in private, so it really
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, but here and it's the same in Australia as well. Australia has a different percentage, but here
Mhm.
it's called Kiwi Saver. So if you work in a job, your employers or whichever job is listed will tell you how much they are contributing towards your Kiwi Saver. So you give 3%, they'll give 3%. You can give 2%, they can give 3%.
Got
It's
it.
like
Oh,
that. So both of your contributions goes towards your
okay.
retirement fund, but you only get Kiwi Saver if you are a resident or above. So
Okay,
if you're
okay.
not a resident, you might not get KiwiSaver
All right.
contribution. You might just get this. But once you get your residency status, you can submit your form to the
Okay,
tax
okay.
thing, and then you can start getting KiwiSaver contributions.
Okay. So would you say the salary is enough to cover expenses because New Zealand is an expensive country to live in? And I know even the when we spoke about the PR and the work
Mm.
visa, that they also look at the salary if it's enough. But in general, I've in the US SLP thing, a lot of the starting jobs are not enough to pay for their day-to-day living, and you might need to take up an extra job. Would you say New Zealand is
Hmm.
okay, the median salary is all good enough to manage?
I would actually say that if you're like one person, right? Again, it depends on where you find the job because one thing to keep in mind is
City
rental,
versus. Oh, okay.
housing crisis, as in
Correct.
Ireland, as in Australia, as in the rest of the world. New Zealand is also in housing crisis, which
Okay.
means the rentals are super expensive.
Okay, okay.
So if you live in Auckland, you have to pay a high, like $650, $700 a week. If you
Mm,
live in some other little rural or not so big towns, maybe the rent per week will be less. So if you're looking, so I, if I was working on my visa and stuff, and I have a job offer, I would look at the salary range, and I would
right.
see which location it is, which
Correct.
is what immigration would do as well. So they would see this is how much you're getting for the month after your taxes and everything. So, and that's another calculation. You should see how much you're getting in your hand because you're going to get taxed. And some
Taxed.
of it
Okay.
is going to go to ACC, which is your accident cover. The moment you land and the moment you have a job, accident cover is valid. So some of it is. So how much do you get in your hand? And how much is like the median rent sort of thing? So you're going to pay so much in rent, so much in groceries. What are you left with? So immigration kind of decides your visa based on
Mm-hmm.
that. So if you find a, let's say, 80K job in a not so expensive place for one person, yeah, I think you'll be able to manage. But if you are living in like Bang in the middle of the city where you're paying $800 a week, or if you've secured
Mm-hmm.
yourself a rental for $800 a week and your fortnightly salary is like, I don't know, $1,500.
Pretty
So
hard to manage.
in 2 weeks, you're getting 1,500,
Mm-hmm.
but every week you have to give $800, so you can't
Mm-hmm.
survive, you know?
Rentals are
So then
weekly.
you're,
Mm.
yeah, rentals are
Okay.
weekly.
Okay.
So, so you can't survive. So your visa
Okay.
will get rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of like that kind of a calculation. Mostly SLT jobs are uh, all
Okay.
like
Wait.
are one,
Mm.
yeah, are one of like well-paid jobs. It depends on your negotiation and whoever is finding the job or securing the job and has moved to that salary negotiation. I would suggest like looking up rentals and how
Okay.
much do they cost. What is the median, you know, in that area? What would your commute be like? Because
Correct. Correct.
do you have public transport or do you need to get your own car? Because that's another expense. Do you have a
Mm.
driving license? How are you reaching to your workplace?
Okay.
Do
Okay.
you want a house close to your workplace? How much rent is do you have to pay there? So yeah, the job is one of the good paid jobs, but
Mm-mm.
you really have
Yeah,
to
the factors also.
calculate.
Yeah.
You have to consider other factors as
Okay.
well, because in general, New Zealand is an expensive country.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
expensive. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Are there any other courses related to SLT which somebody could do? Like we have diploma here. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think this is a thing in New Zealand because even in the US or the other discussions which I had, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They said there's nothing like that, and you could just be an SLT. So.
There are posts like speech language therapist assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's there in US as well, where you could
Correct.
work
Correct.
as a like
Assistant for a
assistant.
couple of years. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then move in. But to be honest, I haven't really come across any
Okay.
courses like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and or any diploma courses like
Got
that.
it. I mean, doesn't
Yeah,
make sense because New Zealand, you can directly work as an
yeah,
SLT with your degree, right? So I don't think it
degree.
makes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep. But I
Uh,
have seen job adverts for like
Assistance.
speech language therapy assistant.
Uh-huh. Okay,
So I
okay.
don't know. It could be like students who want a
Mm-hmm.
part-time job and are like in the process of
Shadowing,
studying
maybe.
because
Mm-hmm.
shadowing and stuff. But to be honest, I
Okay.
haven't really come across it now.
Okay. Tell me, what do you like about New Zealand? Something you like about it? The place. It doesn't have to be related to the work.
It's unbelievably beautiful.
Okay.
So yeah, like I would say like the first month, my brain was just like, do you kind of get used to this view, this just like
Mm.
casually rolling hills, ocean breadth, and because it's very isolated and there's not like a lot of people here, so you find beaches
Okay.
that are just where you're the only person. There's no one as for miles you can see, and like untouched natural beauty.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Like
seen that in your stories. So you have an
yeah,
Instagram page, right? Life after.
yes,
Yeah.
life as a SLP, yeah,
Life as an
which I'm
SLP.
not
So
very active on,
no, but
but
like you can see the beauty right there. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's something you like about the place.
yes.
But once
So
you move to the
nature
city,
still,
still okay.
like for I don't know if you want to put this in the video
Yeah.
or not, but okay, let me show you. So my husband is preparing dinner. Oh, I'll have to switch off my
The
blurry.
blur, yeah.
Yes, hang on. So yeah, which like somewhere I was saying now that nature is part of identity here. So that's just the view you get,
Oh
the
wow.
view I
Okay.
get
Hills,
from my
mountains,
kitchen. Yeah,
cloud. Oh wow.
yes. So that's just so nature is everywhere, but that's also in the people in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So very outdoorsy people. If you grew up in New Zealand, you would be into like hiking or kayaking or sports, and like the even the education system here is designed
Mm-hmm.
like they have EOTC days, which is education outside of the classroom.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that day they will go to the beach, go to the zoo, some
Mm-hmm.
places and all. And a lot of very sports driven, so very, very outside. And so a lot of, like when I said rural, a lot of people will move to the outback outside of the city where they have more open space
Okay,
for
okay.
kids to run and play and have a backyard and whatnot.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's nice.
nature is a
Okay.
big part of
Nature. Okay.
who you
Nice.
are as a Kiwi. Yeah.
Okay. The last question is a piece of
Yeah.
advice for aspiring young SLPs who want to move to New Zealand.
I would honestly say like as much as your clinical stuff, also work a lot on your soft skills. I think it
Mm-hmm.
would help anywhere. Um, I feel like probably when I started working in like, outside of the university bubble, where you're kind of like a
Yeah.
student and shielded from stuff, and then you start working in the real world was what I would, and it's not to say like about my college, but I feel like in general, all our all of our colleges, our entire education thing, we focus a lot on the clinical aspect, but we kind of are not teaching our kids enough of the human aspect.
Correct, correct.
So
Yes.
I remember my, clinical, like how many minutes and how many hours
Mm-hmm.
took. So I took 45 minutes to administer a VAB, or I took 60 minutes to administer a cognitive linguistic test, and 20 minutes for counseling. You couldn't put like 15 minutes or more than 20 minutes. Like, what are you doing counseling for 30 minutes, right? Because
Yeah.
again, we have that population pressure of like,
We
keep it
don't have
moving.
time.
You don't
Yeah.
have the time. You don't have the time. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. But once I moved to the private therapy, where people are paying for your time, you have
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes, you have like a specific number,
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes per session is 800, 900 rupees,
Yeah.
1000 rupees, whatever it is. But then you also have accountability to the parents. And then you have
Mm.
to really explain and you have to make use of the time to know exactly what you want to say. And then you come
Correct.
to abroad, you go to any other country. Over here, especially if you're working in public health or other places, your clinical skills are second. Because first,
Mm.
when you walk in, like going back to the idea of social model and the dignity in general, it's not necessary for people to follow your advice. If they don't like you, why should they? You know how we have like very doctor ne kaha, like Dr. South, you have that like, oh, they have said so, I must do it. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. Whatever
Yeah.
you say, yes. We don't have that there. So if they don't like you, there's no reason for them to work with you because they don't like. So I'm saying it very generically, they don't like you, but it
Okay.
could be
Okay.
something like you haven't convinced me well enough. You haven't
Okay, you
sold me
haven't
the idea
connected,
well enough.
maybe, huh?
Yes, we haven't connected, or I don't trust you enough to tell you everything that I am feeling or struggling with. So, for you to make an informed decision. So, I don't know you enough. You are like an outsider. Like, how do I tell you these things? Or what's happening in my classroom? Or why am I, like, or emotionally,
Correct,
because we do
correct.
work with kids and adults who are going through communication difficulties, and their life might be challenging in different aspects. We
Makes
don't know
sense. Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So for them to be able to tell you that, and for your practice to really work, and for your plans to really succeed, you are dependent on these people.
Yeah.
But it comes back to who you are and how well you can counsel, how well you can explain things, how affirming you are, how much of hope and
Mm.
positivity and confidence you can give them to be like,
Okay,
don't worry,
okay.
I'm here. We can do this. You can do this. Telling the parents like, you can do this sort of thing, which I felt over, like, it's been like 5 years since I
Mm.
graduated. So I've had some time to think and be like, that's something we all really need to think. And I'm sure like everyone who's worked already for a while, and I've seen a few videos of people who have obviously gained it over the years and got that great counseling skill. But anyone who's new and hasn't thought about it, then like being really acutely aware of like watching your seniors or watching your experienced therapist or whoever you're watching and learning from, how do they counsel? What can I pick up?
Mm. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah,
that makes sense. Like people skills, connecting with
yes,
people,
yes,
humanness of therapy, that kind of goes
yep,
out in a lot of setups in India, especially as a university student, you are scared. You're just like, okay, I just need to
yeah,
get it right. I need to get these many
yes,
hours. And then you start working, and
yes,
if you're working in a private setup or a lot of them are very commercialized these days. So I feel like there's a lot
yeah,
of, there are good people,
yeah,
yes, but there are also a lot of these
yes.
things which come up. So,
Yeah, and they have trust issues, right? Like, are you here for the money or are you really trying to help? And why should I come back to you? Can I trust you? Because I still have relationships with
mm-hmm.
the families that I worked with, like not clinical, that I'm not giving them advice, but we're just friends. And
Mm,
they feel
yeah.
happy to send me a picture once in a while to be like,
Yeah.
this is how they're doing. And I feel happy to see one of my kids like grown up and like
Yeah. Yeah.
doing stuff. But that's because they trusted that I had the child's well-being in mind and they could tell me things.
Mm,
And that just carried. But I'm
makes sense.
not going to say like it was present from day one. It
Yeah.
has
Yeah. It
taken
took a
me
while.
mistakes here and there, some cold shoulders to be like, what
Yeah.
did I say that might have upset them?
Yeah.
And then being able to reflect to be like,
Correct.
ooh, that
Correct.
was not a good choice of words. I didn't present it properly.
Mm.
But just being aware of it really helps.
Okay, that's
And
nice.
yeah, yeah,
I think that was really helpful.
yeah.
So, thank you so much for this discussion. I think we've had a
Thank
pretty
you for making
fruitful,
time.
yeah, this was
Yeah,
fun, like a very open, fruitful discussion. And
yeah,
it was really nice knowing about your workplace, what you do,
yeah,
and all that you do in New Zealand. Because I think I don't know anybody else from India in New Zealand. So this was pretty eye-opening for a lot of us, and I'm sure this video is going to help a lot of students.
yeah, yeah,
Also, I probably will add your Instagram or your email below. So if students want to come and contact you, they can probably ask you a few questions
yeah,
after watching the video because a lot of information is in the video.
yeah. I
Yeah.
honestly feel like hardly there's anything else
Left,
I
right?
can
Yeah.
add. Yeah, because again, I do get messages, and I'm like, it is really varies on where you have studied, what you already know, and other things like that. But like you were saying, not many SLPs. So when I started, even I didn't know a lot of SLPs. But in the time since then, I know like one of my batchmates has started in Auckland.
Oh, okay.
She had moved. I don't know if she's settled in, like how it's going, but she had just moved and we only connected, and she just said like, I'm in the middle of things. After a few days, we'll have a proper chat.
Correct, correct.
Um, but yeah, so it's just from those conversations that I know like, okay, Fatura,
Mm.
critical employees and things. So yeah, people are managing to get things done. People who have studied and worked elsewhere,
Mm.
but
They're able to
we have
get.
all gone through the similar having documentation,
Yeah,
CPD and
correct,
whatnot.
correct,
So
correct.
doable, but be on
Yes.
top of stuff. Yes.
This is nice. Thank you so much for this discussion. And if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, they can add it in the comments or they can contact any of us.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. I'll just stop the
Okay.
recording. 1 second.
Yeah, Vanessa. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any queries, questions, doubts, or discussions, add it down in the comments below and I'll help you out. Or you can DM me on Instagram. Okay, bye.